Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. And it's just as much a welcome back to the crew as it is to the audience.
Right?
I think we call this thing the Doc Owen Show. I am joined in the Hilltop Studios by...
I'm a surefire.
And...
Uncle Bachi.
And I am Richard Doc Owen. We're kind of,
You got to think about it.
Well, it's not just had to think about it. I mean, I've sort of forgotten how I normally say it. It's no big deal. It's really interesting. We've not done a new broadcast, a new podcast, if you will, or a new broadcast. This is our first of this year, and it's actually been since before Christmas. We signed off, I believe, on Thursday, the 20th of December, and haven't really gone live since. So a happy and prosperous New Year to each of you, which I will be saying all the way through January, February, March. If it's the first time I see you during the new year, no matter when it is during the new year, I always say happy and prosperous New Year, and that could carry on until like May, June for some people if I don't cross paths with them. So, I feel like it's very important to get that issue across. We are. This was one of those the show must go on nights. Ms. Surefire took a fall the last day of our vacation, of our annual trip to the snow
sport,
and banged up her knees pretty bad, bruised them up, didn't break anything.
Thank goodness.
But still was hobbling around. And then the second day we got back off of vacation, I was trying to change the mantles, the globes, and the gas lights around the property. And my ladder fell out from under me. So I had just spent a week doing snowboarding activities where I'm constantly aware of not hurting myself and not overextending myself, and wear all kinds of braces and boots and all sorts of stuff to protect myself, almost just exactly like a skateboarder, And the second day back, I fall off the first rung of a ladder and break my ankle.
So I'm glad I didn't break mine so I could take care of him.
Yeah, right?
I mean, and then Uncle Bachi shows up tonight, and he's got a croup, a cough, or he doesn't know exactly what he's got, but it's ugly.
It's the crud.
So we're looking around the studio kind of going, maybe we should start it next week. But we got to get her done. I need to tell you, I have a very special announcement to make before I get into just all the normal palaver of the show. And that is, ethicists start, when you're speaking to a group of ethicists, a group of people with an ethics background, mostly educators, et cetera, in the Society for Business Ethics, et cetera, they always start their presentation with the phrase, in the interest of full disclosure. In other words, this is going to be fully transparent. What I'm going to tell you in the interest of full disclosure, so you will know everything you need to know about whatever might be going on behind the scenes or not, right? A really special announcement that Ms. Surefire and I could not exactly decide what to do about or when to do it. And we decided the beginning of the new year, the first show of the new year, was the appropriate time. On May the 14th of last year, did I get the date right?
Yep. It's okay. It's only the first time around.
Mrs. Surefire, Ms. Surefire became Mrs. Doc Owen. She decided to keep her name. Because it's a pretty strong tag, and she's worked hard to develop it, et cetera, et cetera. So, but anyway,
it kind of shows the attitude.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go out to Doc Owen Show, you can see some pictures. I mean, we celebrated it. We had it wasn't a real formal wedding. There were three of us.
Just,
I'm a myself and a justice of the peace.
he was pretty cool.
Who had a great attitude. He was very cool. It made it a very, very unique and pleasant experience. And then we had a family party in September.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you, the audience, are brought up to date. So if from time to time you hear little twangs in the background that sound more like a husband and wife conversation instead of two radio personalities,
That's because it is.
they've taken the gloves off and gone real. So there's our in the interest of full disclosure, Uncle Botchy's not acting surprised because he's not. He was because we didn't tell him beforehand.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
But
then he knows because he knows.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is the Doc Owen Show. We are all over social media for the time being as Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW. You can follow us. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow the Doc Owen Show on Twitter, which we would love to have you do. We're on Instagram. We're out there on a bunch of other stuff. But we also have free apps for both the iPhone and the Android devices. If you go to your specific store, you can download for free. Just look up Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW. Download the app. You'll have access to the live broadcast. If you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, you'll get notified of the live broadcast. And through the app, you have access to our catalog, our entire catalog of shows, give you a good background on information. And we have a blog. Guess what it's called? DocOwenShow.com.
That's right.
DOCOWENSHOW.com. And there will soon be a DocOwenShow.com/store, which we are putting
Bingo.
together in an effort to create prepared, practical patriots. Those are the three elements that'll be advertised, broadcast, and shown and delivered and sold through the store. So it's a thing that internet marketers call affiliate marketing. For the time being, we're also working on some homemade stuff that we will put out there that we will be the affiliate. But we'll take that up later. The first thing is the affiliate part.
That's right.
Because we know we have friends and we've found vendors and we have people that we really like that do the right thing and spend their profits in the right way and do what they're supposed to do of being a prepared patriot. And so we need to promote them, and we're going to do it through the show and through the /store aspect of our .com environment. That's cool. I mean, it's nothing fancy about it, but it's pretty cool. It's looking like it's going to be a good idea. So
I think so.
Yeah, long overdue. Just needed to concentrate on it. So, what else do I have to do in the interest of full disclosure? Is that about it? Does that bring everybody up to date? Are we all back on the same page for 2019?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we're pretty good.
It's going to be a very dull year this year. It's not an election year. Nobody's running for office. Nobody cares. So I don't expect there to be a lot of news.
Shoot. Somebody's trying to build a wall
for us to talk about. Yeah, we'll talk about walls here in a little bit. We always begin the show after our self-serving introductions and advertisements in a very traditional manner. That's when you know that the serious part of the show is kicked off. Ms. Surefire gives us a moment, an inspirational quote that she has found. Uncle Botchy gives us a little dink of this day in history. And then I close it out with supposedly a leadership quote. Often it's a biblical quote that ties the two together. And then we dive into the show. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote comes from a new website that I was looking at. It's called Motivation Ping. That's PING.com.
MotivationPing.com.
Yes.
Interesting name.
Yep. And tonight's quote comes from a gentleman by the name of Zig Ziglar.
Of course.
Of course.
World's greatest salesman.
Yeah.
He
Just
was
ask
an
him.
American author, salesman, of course, and motivational speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And his quote is, "Success means doing the best we can with what we have. Success is the doing, not the getting, and the trying, not the triumph. Success is a personal standard, reading for the highest that is in us, becoming all that we can be."
Yep. All of the above.
Good.
Good job, Ziggy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uncle Bocce?
Yes, I am here. And I'm thankful to be here.
Go.
So, yes, today in history, the oil industry started in the United States.
Boom!
On this day in 1901,
Spindletop.
when Spindletop broke its top.
Yep.
And it just got gushing and gushing and gushing with oil for the first time.
Down near a little place called Beaumont, Texas.
Beaumont, Texas,
Right.
and it's still a little place.
Yeah, it was.
Despite the oil boom.
It was a swamp then, and it's a swamp now.
Yeah.
I got a cousin that lives there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I won't hold
tease-
that against you.
I tease him all the time. When he retired to Beaumont. Nobody retires to Beaumont.
Yeah, I know.
If you,
Right?
folks, if you're not from Texas, look, trust me, nobody retires to Beaumont. So I teased him about that, and he said, "Well, my wife is from here," and I said, "Okay, end of
And
discussion."
that's it. Yeah.
There you go.
That's why you retired to Beaumont. So
And
okay.
the
So
other thing that
Spindletop's-
happened, yeah, so Spindletop, which
broke
was a
through.
good thing.
Yep. Well, we
Okay.
think so. We like to think so.
But something very bad happened on that day, too, depending upon your point of view or your world perspective.
Okay.
In 1946, there was the first meeting of the United Nations. Yes.
I'm.
So,
Is that it?
huh? Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, it started in there was only 51 nations at the time.
See,
So,
I'm of the opinion, and as a youngster, I formed the opinion as a teenager, learning history and being interested in politics, even back then, that the United Nations, there's a lot of things that occur that are done with excellent intent.
intent being the operative word.
Exactly. But they lose their way. They lose their leader. They lose, I mean, it happens all the time. It happens in business. It happens in world affairs. It happens in marriages. It happens in everything,
Right.
It's about staying true to the intent. And I, at the time, thought the United Nations was probably a pretty good idea. And I'm talking early to mid 50s. So when it was first formed, it was like, yeah, we just finished World War II. We don't want to do another world war. Perhaps we do need to have a place where all the countries can come and address their grievances or try to get along. You know what I'm saying? It just seemed like a real logical thing, much as NATO or much as what's the one that's for the Americas that was invented? I've forgotten the name of it, but I'm just drawing a mental blank.
Oh, yeah.
That was
I know what
created
you mean.
for all the Americas. It was like a
Organization of American States.
that could be one of the
I
results.
think
Yeah,
I think
that
that's
is
what it is.
Which was all the north, central, south,
yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. So in other words, Canada through the southern tip of South America. Those sort of things seem like a good idea, but they get off track so easily.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, they're led by people.
Well, yeah, who want to proliferate their own opinion and not look out after the best interests of everyone. We'll talk about that later too.
Yeah.
Okay, so my quote for tonight is very, very hot off the press. Okay, as a matter of fact, it was Tuesday night during President Trump's message from the Oval Office about what he feels and others. He expressed it, but there's an awful lot of people that feel we have an emergency situation, a crisis situation on our southern border. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to what he had to say, there was one little nugget in there that I think, and all I've heard since the speech was about fact checking and numbers and yada yada and yada, and what about the unemployed federal workers and yada yada yada. Nobody seems to be referencing this nugget, so I'm going to give it to you, and you think about it, and you tell me if that's not at the absolute core of what he was trying to deliver, the message he was trying to deliver. He said, people build walls around their houses not because they hate the people on the outside, but because they love the people on the inside. Mm-hmm. And they want to protect them.
Wow.
And that to me was, that was just, it was so sort of non-Trump.
Yeah.
But it really was.
It really was.
I think the guys, when he talks about working in the interest of all Americans, he believes that in his heart.
He's sincere.
He is very sincere.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We may not like how he goes about doing what he's doing or how he expresses it in Twitter or, there's an awful lot of people offended by the way President Trump conducts business.
Mm-hmm.
But President Trump conducts business. He's like 24/7. He's on it. He's unwavering. He is a man of principle, like him or not. Mm-hmm. And so you got to respect somebody like that.
Absolutely. That's one for the ages.
Not to mention the fact he's the president of the United States. Mm-hmm. So
good for him.
But I like that quote. Not because they hate the people on the outside, but because they love the people on the inside of the wall and want to protect them.
Amen.
So think about that.
Yeah.
All right. Our discussion tonight, needless to say, is going to be about a wall. We're going to talk. Well, we live in Texas. We are. The president was in McAllen, Texas today, which used to be one of our hangouts. Simon and I used to go down there until President became Trump, and then the President Trump took over, and it became no fun anymore because all the illegals they all scattered. So it's like a ghost town.
It's like Bueller.
But it's a good place for him to go to get a feel for what's going on at the border. It's kind of central. It's not really geographically centrally located across the Texas border, but it's kind of maybe as far as population is concerned.
Areas, yeah.
Population, it's between El Paso and Laredo down at the southern tip, et cetera. So it's a good place for him to drop in. And not to I also think there's used to be a McAllen Air Base. They used to do fighter pilot training in McAllen. So I got a feeling that they had the facilities to land Air Force One is another reason he picked it. So we'll talk about all sorts of things having to do with the wall and unemployed federal workers. Excuse me, furloughed.
Furloughed, right, because they're not unemployed.
That's true.
Yet, until they quit.
Until they trim the fat off of the government? I don't know. I just said that.
Okay.
Uncle Bocce?
Yes, sir.
Besides knowing who was president when Oregon was admitted to the state, as a state, because if he's still alive, I want him hung.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back and think who that was.
I had to look it up, so he's not still alive. So,
lucky for him.
Who we got tonight? Who are we going to talk about?
Tonight we're going to talk about number 31.
Number 31.
Herbert Hoover.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is exactly what he did to the people of the United States.
He hoovered them?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, he did, but
keep going.
Anyway.
That's how I remember President's Day.
Okay. So, yeah, in 1928, Herbert Hoover went against the Democrat candidate Alfred E. Smith, who was governor of New York.
There's no way for him to. Why did Alfred E. Smith even run? You cannot win a presidential election with the name of Alfred E. Smith.
Why not? What's the name of that guy on Man Magazine?
Exactly.
Is that it?
No.
No, but it's similar to that, though, right?
Alfred E. Newman.
Alfred, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Alfred E. is the bad part. Okay.
Okay, Hoover.
So Hoover, he was the Secretary of Commerce, and he was, at the time, he was from California, but I think he was born in Iowa. And they were nominated, boom, on the first ballot. There was no question who was going to run for president, okay, since Coolidge decided that he wouldn't go for another term. Now, the Democrats nominated Alfred E. Smith, okay, and Joseph T. Robinson of Arkansas. Now, I know these names mean nothing, but I have them down here, so I might as well just throw them out there. Now, one of the things that was going on back in the time of Herbert Hoover was the 18th Amendment, Prohibition. Okay? And also one of the big deals was religion.
Okay.
You remember John Kennedy, you know, there was a big deal about religion. Well, Al Smith was a Catholic. Okay? So the campaign was dominated by those two things and by anti-Catholicism.
Right.
Okay? Hoover, on one hand, he firmly supported prohibition, and Smith favored repeal.
Okay.
You know, which I don't get it because, you know, that's Republican Democrat issue. They don't. Anyway.
I don't think it's any one of their business.
Yeah, it isn't. It wasn't any of their business, and it's not what the Constitution is for.
That's right.
It's not for social culture, social engineering.
That's a fact.
Okay. Yeah. So many Americans found Alfred E. Smith to be a typical cigar-smoking, urban, and cultural kind of a person.
Okay. That's what I was telling you. Take a drink.
To the people, yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I'm going to be coughing.
Take a drink.
Epitomized.
Since we're talking about the 18th Amendment, take a drink. What the heck?
Yeah, the people epitomized that kind of an image as frightening. So, and Hoover seemed to stand for old-fashioned rural values. The Republican campaign slogan is, some of you might remember this who go back then, a chicken for every pot and a car in every garage.
Right.
That was the Republican mantra.
Right.
Now, he wasn't a very well-educated man until later in life. He never graduated from high school. But somehow or other, he became enrolled in the first class of Stanford University in California, which is now, you know, pretty big, renowned university.
What years were? What you didn't mention the years?
1928. Well, that's when he became president. So this was sometime before that.
Okay.
Okay, and he graduated with a degree in geology, which, you know, led him to a lot of different things. You know, he was part of part of the oil boom.
Yeah.
You know, geology and all that. So he worked within the government. He worked very hard with that. This particular election just created an enormous high voter turnout.
Okay.
Okay, so people were very much engaged in what was going on.
When was the Great Depression?
We're coming to that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Great Depression. Okay.
It's tagged for what? 1929, right?
Yes, but it actually really started before that. But that was one of the contributing factors that deepened it. Okay.
Yeah, with the build up to the election, that's why the phrase was "a chicken in every pot."
Yeah,
because people were going hungry.
They were trying to be very positive in their outlook, or Hoover was. Yeah,
okay.
Republicans were.
Right.
Now the Republicans, they just swept the election. 444 electoral votes
Sure.
to the other guy's 87.
Alfred E. Smith and Jackie T. Robinson. What, are you crazy?
Yep.
Of course they could.
Yep. And so the popular majority was substantial. With Democrats, and this is important, listen to me very carefully, folks, and you'll understand why this is important. The Democrats, on the other hand, however, they carried the country's 12 largest cities.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Look where it's gone today.
Yeah.
So here was the beginning of that downfall of our great American
their
cities.
focus on the urbanite. Yep.
Yeah, so this heralded a major political shift that was to come, as far as who's Republican, who's Democrat.
I thought you said his name was Herbert.
Yeah, Herbert. What did I say?
Harold.
Oh, that. Okay, thank you. Okay, so yeah, I mean, Alfred E. Smith won like maybe 8 states. Everyone else went to Hoover.
Yeah.
No changes pretty much in the cabinet. Now, as far as the court is concerned, there's an interesting story here. Hoover, not in his one term, nominated 62 judges to the federal bench, and 4 of them Supreme Court justices. Chief Justice Charles Hughes was in there. Benjamin Cardozo, what a name, and Owen Roberts. But the other one, John Parker, his nomination ran into a lot of backlash from both the progressive Republicans and the liberals, because he was, and it just skimmed. He just was defeated by like 2 votes. In
So his nomination was defeated?
His nomination was defeated.
Wow.
Okay, and we'll find out why in a second. Now, some of the events that accomplishments of Herbert Hoover presidency, I don't know, some of them are really not accomplishments, but these are the things that happened. There was a tariff. Tariffs were a big issue.
Yeah.
It still is. Tariffs are always an issue. But Hoover supported, he wanted to help protect our farmers from foreign competition. Because what had happened is there was a minor explosion because of World War I
Right.
of many countries who before did not produce.
Right.
Were now producing. And now here it's after the war, so our agriculture started producing a lot. So there was a glut, and farm prices went,
Right.
just went down.
Right.
So he had an interest in helping them and protecting them. So he passed the Smoot-Hawley tariff, which really didn't help, because what it ended up doing is spreading the depression around the whole world. There was also the 20th Amendment was passed during Hoover's time, and this is called the Lame Duck Amendment, because they did not like the idea of the lame duck administration having time between the time of the election and March 4th. So they moved it back to January 20th, and that's why today it's January 20th that is Inauguration Day. Couple other things, and this was a horrible thing. There was something called the Bonus March. Back in 1924, under, I believe it was Coolidge, they passed a Veterans Bonus Insurance Act, which was supposed to be payable in 1945. Well, the veterans, hit hard by the Depression, they marched to Congress, and they demanded that they get this money now rather than, because they needed it. So they ended up staying in shanty towns. And the unfortunate part about this is that Hoover sent General Douglas MacArthur to move the veterans out. And he just wiped them out. He just tear gassed them. He brought tanks. He set fire to their camps. What a horrible thing. What an absolutely horrible thing that happened. Taxes was also big, and this also contributed to the Depression. He raised taxes. There was a lot of monetary mismanagement going on, but he decided to raise taxes. And the revenue fell from $834 million in 1931 to $427 million in 1932. And then in 1933, it decreased even more to $353 million.
So raising taxes actually reduces revenue.
Yep.
Which Reagan
and
proved.
Your history will tell you that.
Every time.
Yes,
yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Now, civil rights was another big issue. Hoover was not very much in favor of, say he had an exception that that Asians and Africans were inferior to other non-white people, and he opposed interracial marriage. So that was his idea of civil rights. Simmons invokes, that's his Secretary of State, what is called the Kellogg-Briand Act, which was an attempt to try to get a peaceful negotiation between Russia and China, because they were battling over control of some railroad or whatever. It didn't work, and they finally came to a treaty.
I thought my history teacher taught us that it was trying to make Kellogg cornflakes a constitutional requirement for breakfast.
Yeah, they did try that.
Yeah,
I think in Zimbabwe.
So was there any contention at the election? No, at the election time, like we're seeing with Trump. Remember the premise under which we went down this little rabbit hole?
Yeah, again, not to quite the same extent that you're seeing now.
I don't think that has.
Okay.
It certainly hasn't occurred from what you've told us in history.
Right.
And I'm not saying that it won't as you go through these guys.
Yeah. Right. And what really the major thing is the pushback from the progressive Republicans. And remember, the Republican Party was the more progressive party at the time.
Okay.
The Democrats were liberals. So
progressive in what sense?
Progressive in the sense that, the Constitution is not valid. Old white men,
really?
Are not to be revered.
Really?
That America was never great, and all that kind. That was the progressive mindset. Forget about what's happened in the past.
But they
move forward.
Okay, but they weren't in charge. Were they in charge of the party?
No,
or they were just an outspoken.
No, at the time they were still a minority.
Okay.
So
and they got tired of being a minority, so they became Democrats.
Yeah, I guess. I think there were other things that factored into that.
Okay.
And, of course, scandal was the big deal with moving out the veterans. That was really a horrible thing.
Yeah, that's not good.
No. And Herbert Hoover, he was president during one of the worst economic disasters, in American history. He was totally unprepared to take necessary measures for specifically the unemployed. Instead, he focused on businesses and wanted to give businesses the ability to succeed. So, which really,
by raising their taxes.
Yeah. So,
Duh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who we got next week?
Next week will be
number 32.
FDR.
Oh, FDR?
Yes.
Cool.
That's going to be really way out there.
Okay,
so that's it. This is Uncle Bachi, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com. Send your letters.
Yep.
I'm waiting.
Give him a hard time.
Thank you, Uncle Bachi.
Good
You're
job,
welcome.
Uncle Bachi.
Okay, thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Just taking a sip.
You may get called on in class here. If you notice a slight change in the demeanor, I normally do the show standing up. I learned a long time ago when I first started doing this thing called the Doc Owen Show that I have more energy. It translates better if I am standing up versus sitting down. But because of my ankle, I just had to take a seat during.
I was wondering what was going on there.
Uncle Bachi was talking. I had to, scramble around the studio and grab a chair. So I know that my the energy level of my voice and everything just generally changes when I sit down. Most of us, it's not just me. I think it's a lot of people, but that's just the way it works. I notice it. So my apologies if I put you to sleep. So let's talk about the quote that I brought up from Tuesday night's speech about the wall, and it's so obvious that it's. I find it hilarious that all the Democrats don't want to talk about the wall. For those of you outside the United States, and we have a few. If you're not aware, but if you're listening to the channel, then you're probably interested in American politics for one reason or another. Probably, humorous entertainment, if nothing else. We got two distinct parties, Republicans, Democrats. Republicans are generally called the conservative group, and the Democrats are generally called the liberals. And there's good reason for both of those handles. The Democrats, in the case of the wall, as we just call it, President Trump, in his run-up to the presidency, made a wall on our southern border, not just Texas, but Texas, Arizona, that little piece of New Mexico that is in there, and California. Our entire southern border of the United States is with Mexico. Mexico has that whole sector through there. But the countries on the other side of Mexico have now started tromping across Mexico to break into the U.S. Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, all, and they're tromping through Mexico to get to the U.S. Because of our economy, predominantly. Period. Amen. And they had no respect for their home country, or it would have done better than it is, right? I mean, they had no respect for cleaning up their home country. And it's kind of like somebody that lives in a house and they completely trash it out. And when it's all trashed out, they move next door and trash it out. And then they move next door and trash it out. They never take care of their own home place. They just muck it up and then move on, right? We've all seen folks like that. That's exactly what's happening in terms of Central America trying to come to the United States.
Right.
Right? No matter what sob story a Democrat tells you or a liberal tells you, and it's not that Republicans or conservatives are hard-hearted or without compassion for people who are truly downtrodden and need help, particularly in the United States. We've got a lot of homeless people here who were born here.
That's right.
They don't need any competition for being homeless by people from elsewhere who aren't willing to legally cross the border, declare themselves, and try to become a good citizen. All of those folks, I'm fine. So, anyway, Trump made building this southern wall a big deal during his candidacy. And as you've noticed during his presidency, it's like he's got a to-do list on a whiteboard somewhere that he just checks the box. He goes in and looks at it every morning. He probably has his people look at it, and they decide what they're going to attack that day, and they keep trying to put checks besides this to-do list that he gave as his campaign promises. A very unique position for a politician to take. And it has definitely made him an outsider in the vast majority of Washington. Yes.
We have our most favorite fan.
Our number one.
That's right.
Doc Owen Show 2018 Listener of the Year.
Yes.
Attaboy.
Shared some information with us that we want to pass on.
Okay.
He said in today's Trump on the border. Okay. In today's Trump on the border, out of 435 caught today, over 180 were from other than Mexico.
Right.
Also known as OTM.
OTMs. Right.
To include 2 from Pakistan. And that's where he saw it live on Fox this afternoon.
Good for him. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
So, just to back, and I'm sure he made that comment to back up what I was saying. They're referred to by Border Patrol as OTM. In other words, there's Mexicans and then there's OTM, and OTM includes, as he said, Pakistan. I mean, all the rest of the world is an OTM. So we don't really know what it contains. All we know is that it does not contain the best element of the rest of the world. The hardworking folks that came over from Europe and came through Ellis Island. So Trump made this the whole thing about the wall when he was running for president, right? This is nothing new. Mm-hmm. And before Trump became president, all the Democrats, and they have them on tape, and now they've been all over the social media.
That's right.
Were supporting the wall.
They absolutely were. Every one
of them. Schumer, Pelosi, right on down.
That's right.
Barack Obama, right on down. Everybody wanted a wall. As a matter of fact, they appropriated $27 billion to build a wall. And typical of a Democrat administration, they didn't get it done.
Because they really didn't want it.
But they voted the money for it.
Yeah.
Because they knew the American people wanted it, so they voted for it, and that's what gets them reelected. But then they don't do it. Nobody holds them accountable.
That's correct.
Republican members of Congress and presidents, Republican politicians, are held accountable by Republican people. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
Democrats don't do that.
Nope.
They don't hold their people accountable.
Nope.
They
They lockstep.
They get peed on and told it was rain.
Yeah. Good.
So
horrible thought.
So what the Democrats have been trying to do this round, and they did it right after Trump's speech. They said very little about the wall.
Right.
Their whole deal was about the 800,000 federal workers who are, because the government is, quote, shut down, unquote, that, we got 800,000 workers that are not going to get a paycheck. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
To me, that's 800,000 people who shouldn't be getting a paycheck anyway.
That's right. They shouldn't be working.
That's why I said earlier, trim them back.
2.7 million people.
There's plenty of other jobs out there.
Work for the federal government. One of the highest income averages in the United States of America is right in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. That was not the intent of our forefathers. That is not the intent of this country.
That's correct.
That's not. We are not here busting our butts to support a federal government. They need to be out of the way, but that's another issue. And so then you probably already know, but I'll say it anyway because I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. Trump told us in his Tuesday night broadcast from the Oval Office that Wednesday morning he was going to be meeting with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and others, leaders from both sides, et cetera, to try to come to some sort of an agreement that would allow him to sign a bill reopening the government and funding the wall, right? Mm-hmm. And so he was going to try to do that. He asked Pelosi point blank, so Nancy, if I reopen the government today, within the next 30 days, will you fund the wall? And as a point of negotiation. And Nancy's response was, no. We will never fund the wall. Trump said, meeting's over.
Yep, walked out.
We're done.
Mm-hmm.
And
which I give him credit for.
I have on a very, 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 very minor, small scale, been privileged to do the same sort of thing.
Yes, you have.
In negotiated meetings. And so I understand exactly where he's coming from, and he totally did the right thing.
He did. Proud of him.
We're done here. Have a nice day. And it just shocked him that he would walk out of the meeting. Well, he didn't really walk out. They refused to negotiate. They refused to compromise, no matter what he does. They couldn't care less about the wall. They hate Trump.
It's about him.
Yeah.
Making it personal.
They made it totally personal.
They need the scales taken from their eyes.
They, they're so eat up with the fact that this outsider that they declared time and time and time again before his election that he would never get elected. And now they've got such egg on their face. There he is. It's going to be, it is a kickoff to a very interesting 2 years. A minimum of 2 years that we have a Democrat-controlled House. We've got one new freshman that is completely, we got several new freshmen
that are bonkers,
that are completely out of control.
Yes, they are.
I mean, I can't imagine somebody talking like that filthy mouth girl did that's a recently elected. I think she's a Muslim. Realized, when was it? Last night at dinner, we were at a birthday party for Angelo. That's the dog. Dogs have birthday
Happy
parties.
birthday, Angelo.
That's another story. Anyway, so it dawned on me, the one thing that this Ocasio-Cortez, is that her name?
That's,
Close
one
enough,
from
right?
Brooklyn.
That's true.
That she did something for the United States of America that no census anywhere could have ever done, that we would have never known had she not been elected to the United States Congress. Do you know what that is? We now know without a shadow of a doubt. It is an absolute fact. We now know the exact location of the dumbest House district in the United States of America.
Wow.
The people that elected her must be freaking stupid. And if I have some of my friends listening from Brooklyn, take it. Because that's what you are. You're an idiot. Because you elected an idiot. I mean, anyway, I saw a meme the other day that a reporter was asking her a question that asked her what her opinion of Roe v. Wade was. And she said those are the two primary ways that that the Mexicans can get across the border. They can row the boat or they can wade.
Whoa.
Oh, my God.
Are you serious? Or are you making a joke?
No, she didn't say that, but
okay.
I said it was a meme. It was a cartoon, and somebody inserted those.
I gotcha. Okay.
But it does sound like something she would say.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else do we need to cover? We've covered the wall. We've covered the aspect of they're trying to say that Trump is throwing a temper tantrum.
I'm surprised the lightning didn't strike them.
The one thing, one of the other things I've learned about liberals over the last few years, they accuse their modus operandi is to accuse the other side of exactly what they are guilty of.
Absolutely.
I don't know whether they know that they are doing that, if that's a conscious decision, or if it's just a built-in stupidity.
Yeah, I think it's part of the rules of radicals, isn't it? Deflection.
Well, deflection is one thing.
Yeah.
But they point it right back at you.
Yeah.
Deflect.
Yeah.
Deflect to me means something different. It means, cut it off at an angle. In other words, shoot it off at an angle.
Yeah.
Not completely hold up a mirror.
Okay.
And put it right back at you.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is they're accusing. They're the ones having the temper tantrum.
That's right. They are.
Because they're not getting their way. They're precious little federal government has been partially shut down, and they depend on those handouts that government workers called work, but I don't. They're handouts because not enough of them are productive, in my opinion, nor have they ever been, to actually be earning what they're earning. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So they're trying to. This has nothing to do. I mean, Trump is making it the wall, shutting down the government, contingent upon the wall money, but that's an administrative decision. You know what I'm saying? And his by the way, the fact checks on his numbers was correct. He didn't state anything that was not true.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I believe that.
Everything he said was true.
Mm-hmm. People don't want to hear the truth.
That's right, including the $115 billion a year the United States pays as a result of the drugs that come in through the southern border.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he's asking for, and that's another thing. Let's ask a basic question.
Okay.
This is for both of you, because I can't hear the audience. Ask yourself, historically, do walls work?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
I asked you
quick
before
answer.
the show.
Yeah.
Well, I asked you before the show. Mm-hmm. Did the Great Wall of why was the Great Wall of China built? Mm-hmm. Right.
Yep. To protect the people of China from the hordes of Manchuria.
Yes.
And maybe Mongolia.
Right. But the roaming nomads and hordes that were coming across the Chinese border and murdering, maiming, robbing, yada, 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 and then going back across the border.
Right.
So they built a wall around China to protect the people in their own house.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly like Trump said. All right? Mm-hmm. And it worked, right? What about Israel? The wall in Israel. Does that work?
99.9% reduction.
Right. They work. And as Border Patrol, et cetera, has said, what? Okay. We just got.
I thought we were just getting started.
I did too. Emma just gave us the 1 minute thing. Wow.
Pretty close.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Pretty close.
Okay.
I have a dialogue going with our favorite fan.
Oh, we did. Okay. So anyway, walls do work. And as our Border Patrol and professionals on the border have said, they are not absolute. They are a piece and a parcel of everything else that goes with it.
That's right.
But they are a critical piece because if nothing else, it slows the perpetrators down to the point that they can be captured. Yes. It'll stop some. It will not stop all. And Trump's not saying that it will, but it damn sure will slow people down. You know, just like a wall around your house. If they want to get in, they're going to get in. Right? But it'll slow them down. It'll make them be obvious about the fact that they're climbing over the wall. Just think about it.
Yep.
And the main thing to think about is we're not doing it because we hate Mexicans and people from South America. We want to do it because we love the people in America. And we want to protect them from the nastiness and the bad. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care. Pay attention.